gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. It's Wednesday night, which means we have a full 2 hours commercial free. Unless my bladder disagrees, then we might have to go to break. But so far, it's looking like it's going to be commercial free. And we'll have a bunch of fun here on the show. As always, thank you so much for joining us because it's what day, Don?
Hump day.
Hump day.
Hump day.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll, of course, welcome to my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard, the big toe of the portal.
Certainly not the broken little toe.
No, that's doing good, is it?
It's doing better. Yeah, I can actually walk on it now.
Yeah.
I bought a new pair of shoes. It feels okay.
Well, it always helps. Yeah, it does help. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having a great week. You're halfway through, working towards the weekend. So I'm hoping that that's giving you good spirits and you feel like hanging out and having 2 hours of paranormal fun with Don and I here on the portal. Right, Don?
Yes, with fun with Brent and I right here on the portal.
Yeah, that's us.
It's going to be our new drop right there.
We are fun. We put the FU in fun. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Someone else adds the N later, I guess. Maybe it's you guys. You guys bring the N.
Case. Nut case.
But anyway, I don't know. They give me a microphone, and you never know what's going to go into it. But
you brought the microphone.
I know. Well, it's my microphone. That's true.
It's my microphone. I'll bring it in if I want to.
I say what I want. Hey, yes. But we got a whole bunch of cool stuff on deck tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We, of course, are going to do the news as usual.
The news.
We, of course, have open lines. So if you feel the need to call in, you can certainly do that. The number is 720-923-0500.
0500.
Once again, 720-923-0500. No, just 0500.
00.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the numbers for fun right here on the portal. If you want to call in, you can do that. Please wait till after the news. And please, if you call in during one of our video segments of tonight's show, just hold the line. We'll get to you as soon as we can.
Just kind of nod in it.
Yeah, so speaking of the video segments that I just mentioned, we have been given exclusive access by Mr. Wes Germer.
Mr. Germer.
To showcase his new Sasquatch Chronicles shorts that he's been putting together, and it's the best of Sasquatch Chronicles. I mean, of course, he's got hundreds of amazing shows and interviews and stuff, and so what he's been doing is creating these shorts of many of these interviews. He's been churning them out like crazy, but he has given us the ability to showcase those a lot of times before they're even posted anywhere else. So he's given us exclusive access to several. One of which we're going to go through tonight is his interview with Travis Walton.
Oh, Travis Walton.
Yeah, of Fire in the Sky fame.
Wow.
Travis Walton in the 70s was he was working doing some logging in Arizona, and saw that he and his crew they saw a saucer or some kind of craft, and they didn't know what it was at first. They just saw the lights. They drive in. He gets out of the truck.
Yes, he did.
And walks up because he's absolutely enamored by it, and ends up getting struck by a blue light of some kind that throws him like a rag doll.
Blinded by the light. Sorry.
Yeah, and with color commentary by the beard. So he gets thrown, and his crewmates are sure he's dead, and they leave, and so it's an amazing tale. If you're not familiar with it, you're going to just be sitting on the edge of your seat. It's just an incredible event that actually happened to this guy. And if you haven't heard the story, you're going to be, really blown away by it. If you have heard the story, you're going to be blown away by it because they really go into some really interesting facts and parts of Travis's experience that you may never have heard anywhere else. And also, if you've seen the movie, you might be in for a little bit of awakening because the movie is based on what Travis experienced. But this interview is Travis's experience. So it's an excellent interview. I'm just absolutely honored to have the opportunity to showcase for that for you, all of you tonight. Special thanks again to Mr. Wes Germer for making that possible for us here on the portal. And we are going to go through a couple of other videos that he's put together as well, having to do with the Sasquatch phenomena and just our normal amount of madness that we throw into every show. So,
well, that's no doubt.
Yeah. So just saying, so you're not thrown completely. Yeah, it's still just, Don and I just doing our best. But we hope you enjoy the whole journey and stick around. We're probably going to close the show with the Travis Walton video, but we'll get to a couple of the other ones before that. So, without further ado.
And certainly not a don't.
Oh, God. If my mom's listening right now, she is laughing.
Why would she be laughing?
Oh, my God. I grew up with jokes like that. Mom, I need an antihistamine. Well, what about an uncle histamine? Boom. That's Portal Mom.
Mom said that stuff?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
Great. Right on.
She did. She had a whole trunk full of those that she threw out. It's like, oh, my God. So I had a mom that used dad jokes. So.
Sorry.
Okay.
Tis the season,
It's a season. The changing of the seasons really kind of throws Don's equilibrium off.
Apparently, he breaks his toe right before, the equinox.
Well, it is fall.
Fall, yeah.
Thank you.
That took a second to process.
Usually it's me doing that.
No, it was me jumping up and down screaming, I broke my freaking toe at 11:30 at night.
Yeah, that's the way to celebrate.
Roommates hate me.
Celebrate an evening for sure. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all are ready because we're going to go in. We're going in. We're going to get creepy up in here. So, or maybe just spooky.
Let's get spooky.
We're going to get spooky.
To fall.
Aggravated Progressive says haunted houses real. Absolutely. I've lived in them. I lived in one for sure. Possibly several, but I've had experiences in several houses. So I don't know if the houses are haunted or if I am, but at any rate, here we go, folks. Without any further wait or deliberation, let's do the news. Sorry. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, joined by my co-anchor, Mr. Don Longbeard.
That would be me.
And we got some news to pull up for you.
The one with the deep, sexy voice.
The other voice.
The one in my head, sorry.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get into the news now, and most of the time we feature our news articles from unexplained-mysteries.com. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a great site. It's a load of fun to go through and check out because they've got paranormal stuff there. They've got science stuff. They've got bizarre stories. They've got nature, all kinds of really cool little articles, and just a fantastic job. So definitely stop by and support unexplained-mysteries.com. Speaking of which, the first article tonight is a brand new something I'd never heard of, but Don actually knew this. So I was blown away, but maybe some of you will know what this is too, but this is a new concept to me. But apparently Rat King was discovered by a farmer in Russia.
Right next to the Nutcracker.
Jesus.
Well, it is a Russian ballet.
Gotcha.
This must be Russian.
This apparently, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, is a rat king, a circle of rats that just somehow get hopelessly tangled together and eventually die. And I've never heard of this before. Don he knew that they can get their tails all tangled up and they go batty and
Don't get your tail in a knot.
Yeah, well, maybe that's where that comes from, right?
Maybe.
The unusual phenomena happens when a group of rats get their tails hopelessly tangled together. Finding a rat can be an unsettling experience at the best of times, but imagine finding a writhing ball of them all trapped and tangled together so that they are unable to flee or free themselves. This was the spectacle that met Ali Bulat Rasulov, landowner in Russia, southeast Stavropol region, where he ventured out into his fields to inspect the damage after a flood back in August. He found a total of 5 bedraggled rats, all with their tails tangled tightly together. Unfortunately, in this case, the rats were lucky, as Rasulov later took the time to free them. Oh, that's nice.
How the hell did he do that without getting bit?
I'm sure he had big gloves on.
Big pair of gloves.
Yeah.
Welding gloves.
Yeah. However, most of the time the rats do not find themselves in such a predicament. Most of the times the rats that do find themselves in such a predicament have no hope of freeing themselves. Several examples of rat kings, some with far more rats than this one, can be found in natural history museums across Europe, including the Roy de Rats specimen, which was found in Germany in 1895. Exactly how rats end up becoming so entangled, however, continues to remain something of a mystery. The Rat King from Russia. Let's check this out. You ready to check this out, Dan?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. There he is.
Вот арбузное поле.
All right, it's a great day.
Are you going to translate?
Вот поливной канал.
What am I going to do with this field?
Поливаю арбуз.
All right. Are we going to get to the rats sometime here?
All right.
Проходя мимо, я заметил очень странную вещь. И поднялась и
there you go.
залила мышиную нору.
Wow.
Вот она. Вот она.
What's going on? Oh, are they underground, I suppose?
В которой жили, видимо, ее детки, мышонки.
Ushungi.
Мышка
We're going to turn down, since none of us speak Russian, at least none that I know of. We'll turn that down. Oh, there they are. Oh, they're just little dinky things, aren't they? I wonder if rats are smaller in Russia or what the deal is.
It's not the single rat in Russia you need to worry about. It's the Rat King that'll get you.
Yeah, exactly. That's bizarre. Yeah, they're all tangled there.
Yep, they are.
Oh, what a good guy, though. I mean, he took the time to free him. That's
not the Rat King. Those are the Rat Princes.
Oh, man. It's looked like they're growing off of that plant. So that's a Rat King, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, he spends a little time with them and allegedly frees them, which is pretty good of him, considering. Wow. He does not have gloves on.
No, he's crazy.
Yeah.
Rachel gets it right, of course. Says the story of the Rat King is a twisted tale indeed.
Ooh. She gets a rim shot. Oh, look at that. He's got him. It's like a bracelet now. Wow. Okay. Well, there they are on the ground. And, boy, they're just dinky, though, aren't they? Those can't be full grown, can they? They must be juveniles. Look at that. Just picking them up like a set of keys.
Like, oh, there's where I put them.
Yeah, exactly. Just a new keychain.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Well, that's the video. Apparently, that's a Rat King, ladies and gentlemen. I was today old when I learned what a Rat King was, and I hope I'm not the only one. I never have heard that. That's so bizarre. Right?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Thanks, YouTube suggestions. What the hell? I didn't realize what was being suggested there after the video, but you'll all have to rewind if you want to catch that. I don't know what a woman doing exercises is all about, but
let them wonder.
Let them wonder. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, now here's one that is surprising, at least by the title, and it's coming from unexplained-mysteries.com, and it's Castleford croc in UK back garden. A creature resembling a crocodile has been spotted wandering around outside residences in West Yorkshire.
It only resembles a crocodile?
Yeah, I don't know if it actually is. Could be an alligator, maybe. I don't know. Believed to be approximately 4 feet in length, the mysterious reptile, which has been dubbed the Castleford croc, was most recently sighted in the back garden of the nurse Sarah Jane Ellis. of nurse Sarah Jane Ellis.
Oh, gotcha.
She recalled grabbing her phone, taking a few photographs of the creature, but admitted to not spending long watching it as she had just finished her night shift and needed to get some sleep.
Oh, it's not important.
Okay. When she returned to the window a few hours later, there was no sign of the crocodile. She later showed the photographs she had taken to her sister-in-law, Kate Ellis Holmes. I was genuinely in disbelief when she was telling the story. She told Yorkshire Live, "When I saw the picture, I was in disbelief. I thought it was some bizarre and really interesting story." Yeah, you don't normally see those there.
No.
The sighting is supported by a previous report of a similar animal by photographer Lee Collings, who claimed that he had witnessed a small crocodile-like animal in local nature reserve last year. Ooh, does that mean it survived the winter? I guess so. He said he had heard rumors that a caiman had been set loose in the area. I'm 46 years old and have been a bird watcher for over 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this other than a crocodile or alligator, he said at the time. If there is a caiman roaming around, it would certainly explain the recent sighting as well. Well, yeah.
Well, duh.
Well, there it is. Yeah, there's the picture. Yorkshire family spotted 4-foot-long crocodile on the loose in their garden. The crocodile has been spotted twice in the Castleford area. It is claimed. Okay.
Well, that crocodile better be glad it wasn't in the outback in the UK instead. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tiny thing compared to the
He'd have
saltwater
been
crocs over there.
hypnotized
Yeah.
and turned into a belt.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, that's a new one. I didn't know, but I guess it stands to reason. People get these pets and they get inconveniently big, and so they be free. Yeah. Thank you. That's why we have Asian carp in the U.S.
Yes,
now.
Sheldon. Go do your homework, Sheldon.
What did he say?
He says I'm lurking because he's got homework to do.
Oh, okay. Well, take care of your business. Yeah.
Mind your business.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's the Castleford croc, which is actually named caiman alligator. But anyway, it's all the same. It's potatoes.
Tomatoes, tomatoes.
All right, here we go. Is another article from unexplained-mysteries.com. And this is a mystery woman in Croatia. Can't remember her own name.
Wow.
Huh.
Anastasia.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Who's the woman and how did she end up on the rocks? Oh, I did hear about this. So, yeah, this woman was just found like on this rock out in the ocean next to the shore in this area. Police in Croatia are investigating the case of a mystery woman who is unable to recall anything about her life. According to reports, the woman, who's believed to be in her 60s, was discovered sitting on the rocks of Croaties Kirk Island back in September 12th.
Her name is Ariel.
Yeah.
That's why she was sitting on a rock.
She's a mermaid.
No, she's a human now. She's got
Yeah,
legs.
she got legs.
She's got legs.
Sporting cuts on her face, the woman was able to speak perfect English, but did not seem to be aware of what had happened to her or even who she was, where she came from, etc. She is taken to a local hospital for treatment. However, despite their best efforts, authorities have been unable to determine her identity and are now appealing to the public for assistance. According to a local resident, the mystery is deepened further still by the fact that she was discovered on the rocks because the area itself is dangerous and inaccessible. Might explain the scratches. I'm just saying, I'm going to go out on a limb there. In addition, given her physical condition, there's no way she swam to the island. So it seems that she was either dumped there by someone or had washed up there after falling into the sea. According to the police description, she is 5'4", has shoulder-length blonde hair and blue eyes. She was found wearing a striped navy blue T-shirt, black trousers, and a pink linen cap. Oh, that's a picture of her. Wow. Yeah, she did get knocked around, didn't she? Oof. Poor lady. And then to have no idea who you are. I hope they figure it out. That's pretty crazy. Huh. I'm always fascinated by amnesia. What would that be like? And just to not know.
I don't know. I forget.
I'll give you one.
All right.
I'll give you.
Finally.
You got one. Yep. That was pretty good.
Oh, no.
Timely and inappropriate. Which for this show is not often. So that's an interesting story. I don't know. That was from, when was this? 21st. Is that today?
Yeah.
That's
That was
today.
yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Okay, so I don't know. I haven't heard.
She was found on September 12th, so it was only a week old.
Yeah, but apparently still nobody knows who she is, where she came from. I saw that it was, isn't that how Jason Bourne started?
Kind of, yeah. Fished out by French fishers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
could be.
Uh-oh.
She's a sleeper agent.
Dinah Webb.
There you go, folks. But interesting, all the same. Let's get to the next one here, and this one is, this one
Rachel
sounded
says
interesting.
she was identified.
Oh, really? Does she?
Huh? Do you know more?
Do you know
Why
more?
do you always give us like just little drips and then leave us begging for more? That's our job.
She's good with the suspense.
She is.
Yeah, I'd love an update of that if there's been headway made on that, because that's a long time to not know in today's age. Everybody knows something, or somebody has a paper trail of something.
No, it wasn't Goldie Hawn.
Oh, yeah. Sir Clive Sinclair, a man ahead of his time, is the next one, ladies and gentlemen. And this one's interesting. I pulled it up. I mean, I don't know that it's at all paranormal, but I thought, hey, this guy's ahead of his time. We should read about him. The late inventor created all manner of weird and wonderful gadgets, but did any of them truly fail? Fail? What?
That's what it says.
It's not a pretty good headline. It's like, well, what? Is he known as having failed or what? Sir Clive Sinclair, inventor of the UK's first mass-market home computer, has the Sinclair. That's right.
Oh, the Timex Sinclair.
Yeah. Has died at the age of 81, pioneer of tiny portable devices, truly affordable computers, and novel electric forms of transportation. He leaves behind what some see as a checkered history of hit and miss inventions. But Sir Clive's contribution to British technology, and by extension the British economy, is beyond dispute. An icon of home computing, he created devices that were enjoyed by millions, the majority of whom would have been unable in the 80s, when his computers were launched, to purchase the expensive models of the market. Even Sinclair's so-called failures reveal an inventor who sought to solve everyday problems rather than amass a personal fortune, and many were prescient, anticipating electrified personal transportation. Sinclair developed an electric car and electric bike long before the vogue they both enjoy today. These later inventions may have been a business failure, but they were a triumph of the will and the imagination. Sinclair long ago secured his legacy as the father of the home computer, but time is only now vindicating his other creations. Now, at least, we have the chance to catch up. Early successes. Ooh, this is a long one. We can do it. Sinclair's earliest contribution to consumer electronics was the Sinclair Executive, the world's first pocket calculator, which went on sale in 1972. No match for today's calculators, the Executive nevertheless established Sinclair as a technological pioneer. He subsequently shifted his attention to develop a string of genuinely affordable home computers, beginning with the launch of the Spectrum ZX80 in 1980, at a time when computers were still regarded as an excessive technology affordable only to business and the wealthy. Sinclair's targeted the mass market with a price tag of less than £100 to £440 in today's money. This period of innovation gave rise to the ZX Spectrum, the iconic home computer on which many people of a certain age shot their first pixelated aliens. That device, with its trademark rainbow sash, is still fondly remembered by millions of early computer users, whose parents may have hoped they'd pursue more explicitly educational experience on the novel device. For Sinclair, the Spectrum's resounding place in history is primarily a games machine, must have rankled given his well-known ambition to get computers to the masses as a means to expose them to technology he knew would come to define the future. Still placed in the general public's hands, the ZX Spectrum did inspire a generation of software designers, including some of the leading lights in today's UK games and tech industries. The beauty of these computers was their ability to support all kinds of creativity, including those who wanted to build games. so-called failures. Later in his career, Sinclair was regarded by many to have gone off the boil. Never heard that phrase. He launched an unsuccessful bid to make the ZX81 the official BBC computer, not the Spectrum, as many believe. It ended up becoming much more successful than the BBC's choice, the BBC Micro. The BBC contract was awarded to Acorn, founded by former Sinclair research employee Chris Curry. The rivalry between Sinclair and Curry was wonderfully, if apocryphally, retold in BBC's Four Micromen. The show was described as mostly true by those present at the time, though Sinclair himself stated that it was a travesty of the truth. It just had no bearing on the truth. It was terrible. The mockumentary style made tongue-in-cheek references to Sinclair's C5 electric car launched in 1985 with the promise of delivering a new power in personal transport. The C5 recorded abysmal sales, and road users understandably nervy navigating mixed traffic from a seat inches above the road. The show also references Quantum Leap, Sinclair's abortive attempt to get into business computing, including a parody of Sir Clive's exaggerated jumping in the QL Computers TV advert. Micromen reflects how some of the media turned on Sinclair after his early computing triumphs, focusing on his subsequent inventions, which they quickly deemed to be failures. But that perspective fails to recognize the hidden influence Sinclair's work continued to have in the latter part of his career. The company that won the BBC contract, Acorn Computers Ltd., was itself an offshoot of Sinclair's vision and innovation. It went on under the new name Advanced RISC Machines, or ARM, to create the central processing units that drive most of the devices we use today. Sinclair also possessed startling prescience. I'm not sure if I'm prescience. Foresight, I guess. Electric vehicles are set to take over our roads in the next decade or two, but Sinclair's C5, manufactured in Tideville, okay, in the mid-1980s, could have started the push towards electric cars decades ago, but it wasn't meant to be. Sinclair was soon at it again, and this time with the Zyke, first released in 1992, an electric bike with a top speed of 12 miles per hour. The Zyke also failed to excite consumers, yet this innovation also appears to have anticipated future trends in personal transportation, given the proliferation of electric bicycles and scooters on our streets today. This is a long article. Sinclair's drive was not necessarily to be the best, but to be the most affordable. That's a business model that many technology companies still emulate. All his inventions bear the hallmarks of products designed to solve everyday problems. Many sought to place cutting-edge technology into ordinary people's hands. Sir Clive's true legacy is his lasting impact of those central motivations. Millions of people fondly remember Sinclair's early computers with more than retro nostalgia. They were many people's first chance to experience computer power, delivered by an inventor who valued excess over exclusivity. Despite criticism and even derision in the media, Sinclair was never disheartened, followed instead his own often quoted endearingly simple advice: don't give up, stick at it. Well, there you go. It's apparently the article's republished from The Conversation under Creative Commons license. So.
Yeah, he actually made this. Well, I don't know, because it was Timex Sinclair, so it was a TS-1000. Mm-hmm. So Timex helped him, but it was a keyboard only about, I don't know, like not much bigger than a Reuben sandwich.
Hold that up again, because you got it. Now you're on camera.
Yeah, maybe 8 by 6. I don't know. It's mostly just keyboard, but you would plug in a cassette tape to it. Yeah, you would record it to the cassette tape, and you could plug it into your TV. And so it was kind of crazy. I knew a guy who programmed on one way back in the day. So talk about nostalgia.
That is really cool. Yeah.
Rachel Gets It Right says she's Daniela Adamkova, originally from Slovakia, identified by a woman she worked with in L.A. She knew her in 2015. She had run into hard times in her past and wanted to travel.
Wow.
Well, now she can just travel and
I guess she
to
did.
worry about the hard times in her past.
I wonder what got her to that rock, though.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's the weird
crazy.
part. There's a lot to uncover. There's a lot to unpack in that story, folks. All right, here's the next story on the newscast, and this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Man finds creepy doll boarded up under the stairs.
Yeah, those suck.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. That's a lot creepy. A primary school teacher in Liverpool, England, found something decidedly creepy hidden in his new home. When the 32-year-old Jonathan Lewis moved into his house recently, one of the first things he did was remove the plasterboard that a previous owner had used to cover up the space beneath the stairs. There was a wire coming out where the previous owner had a fridge, but I didn't know where the wire was plugging in, so I knocked through a bit of the plasterboard to see what was there, he said. Instead of finding wires, however, he was shocked to discover an old rag doll sitting inside the space wearing a pinstripe dress and clutching a small piece of paper.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Let me out. Let me out.
Dear reader, new homeowner, thank you for freeing me.
Oh, boy.
The note read, oh my God, my name is Emily. My original owners lived in this house in 1961. I didn't like them, so they had to go. All they did was sing and be merry. It was sickening.
Oh, my.
Stabbing was my choice of death for them. So I hope you have knives. Hope you sleep well.
Not likely.
There's a little bit. After a little bit of digging, however, it became apparent the doll was not what it seemed. According to the estate agents, the kitchen had only been fitted a mere 5 years ago, meaning that the doll had most likely been placed there as a joke by the previous owners. I'll be honest, I found the whole thing hilarious, said Lewis. I'd probably do this exact same thing.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of a new trend, too, because people are buying these plastic skeletons and, like, putting them in the dirt underneath porches and stuff so that when someday somebody's going to dig them up, they're going, ah!
So like in your kitchen, when your cupboards come together like that and you got that void space, you want to put that stupid Lazy Susan in there?
Yeah.
Just put one of those in there.
Put it on a spring, though, so it shoots up as soon as you pull the countertop. Yeah, exactly. Just wreck their day.
You're a pure bastard.
Yep. I've got a strong line of bastard running through these veins. However, I'm good at ideas. I wouldn't probably ever do that, but
sounds like a plan to me.
All right, the next article and the last one tonight in our newscast it's a ghostly one, and which kind of fits the Paranormal Portal, but this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. A chair moves on its own in a haunted Welsh pub. Ooh, moving into the Halloween season, folks. Recently released footage of a Lansdowne pub in Cardiff shows a piece of furniture with a mind of its own. When pub manager Haley Budd sat down at one of the tables to take a break one evening back in July, she had an unexplained encounter that would leave her scratching her head. While browsing her mobile phone, one of the chairs opposite her can be seen moving all on its own. It's not clear from the video how this happened, and there's no indication that she moved it herself. I wasn't looking at the chair, I was looking at my phone, but I saw it out of the corner of my eye, she said. I heard it as well, so I asked a customer if they had seen anything, and they had also heard the noise. I always try to find the most logical explanations, so in the video you can see me looking to see if it was something in my bag that had moved then. Then I was trying to tell myself maybe it was the wind. I've tried to recreate it so many times, but there's no logical explanation. I checked the CCTV to make sure I hadn't been imagining it. I wasn't frightened enough to quit my job and run out of there, but I was really shocked. The building itself has something of a reputation for strange occurrences. There's a long-term rumor that among the regulars about a woman haunting the pub, and people who live in the flats above my pub say there's strange goings-on up there, said Bud. I'm not scared just because I've worked here for 8 years and she's never done anything. That's a cause for concern. She clearly just wants to make herself known. Well, let's check it out, shall we?
Yes, let's do
Looks like it's published by Dog's Tooth, but it's here. So let's have a look at what's going on in this video. And here we go. It's 39 seconds long. Can see her feet are here tucked under and one there.
It's that chair.
It's this one?
No, it's the chair above.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Let's try that again. I think we missed it.
I missed it. Yeah, I pointed out and we missed it. So.
Oh, it pulled in.
See now.
What do you mean? I see.
Well,
now?
you can see her feet too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's one here and one here. Yeah. It really does move in. Yeah. Huh. That's a pretty good capture, I think. Huh. Once again. What?
Let it play out. Let's see what happens. Hopefully they didn't do a slow-mo with a big old red ring around it.
Yeah, it just kind of bumps in.
Yeah, and you can see her foot. She can watch her foot move right there.
Yep, there's one there and there's one under a chair, it looks like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it wasn't her.
No.
It wasn't a string tied to her ankle or anything.
Right. Oh, that's rocking too. I'm going to kill the sound before we get a copyright strike. But
wow, that's kind of cool.
That is cool. That's a good capture for sure. There you have it, folks. The pub chair that moves. Or at least did then. So, I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to include our newscast for the evening. Joining our regular scheduled program right now.
It was not a bear.
That was definitely not a bear. There's no bear in the sight. So there you go, folks. That was the news. Hope you enjoyed it. Had a good time with it. I always love doing the newscasts.
Good news.
They're fun. I just like having fun. And that's what the portal is for me. Just a bunch of fun.
Girls just want to have...
Shut up, dude.
Sorry.
I'm not a girl.
Wow.
Although I'm in touch with my feminine side, just for the record.
Just FYI.
I am comfortable with my feminine side. But, yeah. Anyway, let's bury that quick. All right, so we're going to continue on and see just what we can tear up now. I think probably the first thing we're going to do is one of our Germer Files. We've got 3 of them to go through tonight. The Germer Files. So let's go through the first one. And this is a story from the news in the 1970s. And a pretty good story. So let's see what you guys think.
This is the Columbia River Gorge. It separates the state of Washington and Oregon. Growing up, my father used to call this God's country. At the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. But as I get older, I'm starting to understand what he meant. That's Beacon Rock. We don't even bother to call it a hill or a mountain. It's just a rock you can climb. And all that stuff you see in the background, those are just hills. In 1971, Mrs. Baxter was interviewed by a local news station. She was headed home in this general area when she describes running into a creature.
But before I stopped the car, I heard this swamping sound, and that's why I thought I had a flat. But I couldn't understand because we just put new tires on, and I could have been making a noise or beating on his chest or the pole. It was only about probably 1 foot from the pole.
You hear, in this area, you hear noises at night, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
There aren't cougar noises. There aren't bear noises.
No. Right. There's no noise to describe it, really, because I just never heard anything like it. Cougars don't make that noise. Bears don't. Elk or moose or whatever else around.
Something else is out there.
There's something else out there, okay. And it's not just at night, it's in the daytime, too, because they've been hearing them day, night, evening, mornings, even high noon.
Do you see things? Is it just the noise?
Noises mostly, other than when I've seen this creature down there.
Mrs. Baxter, being a local resident, was going home that day. She just crossed the Bridge of the Gods from Oregon to Washington. Why did they call it the Bridge of the Gods? I have no clue. It's a beautiful area. They might have overshot with the name. As she came across the bridge, she went west, towards Portland. Around the Beacon Rock area, she ran into a very strange creature.
It's below Beacon Rock. There's a real wide shoulder just as you go across the bridge, and I just pulled up. I just knew I had a flat, but I couldn't understand. So I got out, and I always keep my right door locked. I get on the left, and I go around with my back to the woods, and I look up and under my car, around the wheel, no flat. So I feel up in there, and while I'm feeling, I suddenly turn around and I'm face to face with him. I mean, it just feels like, it felt like there was something staring at me, is why I looked.
And you were face to face with?
I just about 15 feet from me.
What was it?
I don't know. As far as I know, I suppose it'd be Bigfoot, but he was the biggest animal I've ever seen.
Again, this is Beacon Rock. It's about 40 or so miles outside of Portland, Oregon, as you're heading down towards the gorge. Mrs. Baxter was coming from the opposite direction. The highway runs parallel with the Columbia River, and just below me is where everyone parks if you want to climb Beacon Rock. She goes on to describe the creature.
Dark brown, with terrible glowing eyes. His head was sort of receded, I suppose that's the word. Big teeth, long hair, I suppose it was 3 or 4 inches long. And big wide shoulders, there was no neck. I mean, it just looked like its head set right in its shoulders.
A simple ride home, traveling from the Bridge of the Gods to Beacon Rock. One stop is all it took to change Mrs. Baxter's life forever. She has a message for the skeptics out there.
In the course of this thing, we're going to talk to a lot of people who are going to say there's no such thing. That they work at universities in Seattle or in Portland. What's your reaction to those people who simply stand up and say, there's no pictures of it, it's not there?
I don't really know. After seeing it, I just can't help but believe there is, and I think they're crazy. They don't have such a broad enough mind about it.
There's simply no doubt in your mind there is something there. Something.
There is something, definitely. But put a name on it, I couldn't. It's big and it's terrible looking.
So
you missed all that conversation we just had.
We were just talking about cigarette smoke. The cigarette smoke was funny because she's sitting there smoking a cigarette. Yeah, I'm a rookie here sometimes. This is a new thing for me, so I got to remember to turn off, turn on. It's many layered levels in this broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. So sometimes I still throw a real rookie wrench into it. So my apologies, but we were just joking about that. And Don's like, yeah, he remembers his mom smoking in the grocery store, stomping them out right in the aisles. And I was like, yeah, I remember being in the hospital when I was 14 and having a knee surgery.
Right.
And maybe I was 15. Anyway, I was young, but my roommate was a 30-some-year-old guy, and he's smoking like a chimney over there, right in the hospital room. It was just a different world back then.
Does Mom know about you bumming smokes off him?
No, I don't know. I don't know if she did. I don't know.
She does now.
Well, she might now. Now. Thanks, Don.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Should I have left that in the muted part of the conversation? Sorry. No.
Yeah.
You were telling it anyhow, so.
Yeah. Are we? Rachel just says we're muted, but
No.
Why are we still getting that?
I don't know.
Testing 1 2.
You just crashed there, and it's all good there.
Are you guys hearing us?
Oh my gosh.
What the hell's going on? Are you hearing us? Oh, okay.
Are we back? No, Sheldon says he can hear
Yeah,
us. So
okay.
We're going to go with Sheldon.
All right. Don't worry. It's fixed. All right.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah, I know there's a
Some
delay.
people
There's
need to
a delay.
refresh their screen.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a delay for this. But yeah, that was my rookie mistake. I got to remember to turn on mics on the software as well as the board. It's just, there's many layers of fun here.
Jeez.
Anyway, very cool story. Obviously, her description is really, really accurate.
3 or 4 inches long.
And the way the face looked, how it didn't have a neck. I mean, her description was right on to what we hear today.
And that was 50 years ago she gave that interview. You know how I know?
71.
Because I'm 50 years old.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, that's a long time ago. When you could smoke in hospitals and around,
Anywhere you want.
Anywhere you want. Yep, absolutely.
Got that big old ash hanging off there.
Oh, it's okay, Rachel. No worries. I just want to make sure we were live because if that didn't fix it, I didn't know what the hell was wrong. So I started panicking. Which isn't unusual here on the show. There's always some weird crap going on. But at any rate, sorry about that. It happens once in a blue moon. But it happens. It's blue, too, right behind me. That's funny. It's going through the different colors. That's funny. Perfect timing. But we're going to move on to an article that we've been covering over several shows. We're working our way through it piece by piece, and then we'll do another Germer File. And then we're going to close the show with the final Germer File tonight, and that is the interview that Wes did with Travis Walton. And that's really epic. They're all incredible. There's no question. And I just really feel thrilled to be able to showcase these on the portal. So hope you guys are enjoying them. I see real good comments about it. Drinking and smoking on planes. Oh, yeah, I remember that too, Ruger.
Well, thank you, David. Yes, I remember I had to go get my tonsils out in the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah.
Late 70s, early 80s. And we had to take a Greyhound from where we lived to the hospital because it was like in Seattle and we lived like an hour and a half away.
Oh, okay.
Anyhow, I remember the people sitting in the back of the bus smoking.
That's okay.
But it wasn't cigarettes either.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a whole different.
Mom got really mad.
Oh, did she?
They weren't sharing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Oh, anyhow.
Ruger says my doctor smoked in my room.
Yeah.
And thank you, David. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just saw what David said.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of your YouTube videos, but I've listened to all your podcasts. Yeah, the podcasts are quite a bit different, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a whole different show for the most part. Although we do sometimes take YouTube videos of like interviews and good, just shows that stand out and port them over to the podcast as well. But yeah, we do these live shows on YouTube Wednesday through Sunday. And, we'd love to have you tune in here and subscribe and everything, of course. But let's get to this article, which is from justforspooks.com. And let me blow it up there.
Is it sponsored by the CIA?
Well, you got 2 tonight. You get 2 rim shots done. That's not bad. That might be a new personal best. All right. This one is from justforspooks.com, which we're going to continue. I'm just going to leave that line. And it's 26 supernatural experiences that cannot be logically explained. And we're on number 17 of this list. And these stories have been really good. So I hope you guys will enjoy them too. But number 17, the house that I currently live in is haunted.
Ooh.
Nothing incredibly intrusive, just enough to constantly have us questioning and double checking things. When we first moved into the house, we noticed things were missing a lot. Ooh, it was deports. It was my grandmother's home, and a lot of renovations and painting needed to be done in order to make the home modern. When we painted, we would use a screwdriver to open the lid. My husband put down the screwdriver on the floor next to the can, but the next time we went to use it, the screwdriver was gone. It turned up 2 weeks later, laying in the middle of the floor.
I usually found them in the can of paint.
Well, that's a whole different problem there, Don.
Well, you know.
We have a lot of strange shadows in the house. One morning, I was taking a shower. There's a window directly across from the shower, and in the morning, it lights up the entire bathroom. I heard someone walking up the stairs outside the bathroom, and I assumed it was my husband. And I was slightly confused because I thought he'd already left for work. I heard the bathroom door open and close, and I saw someone walk past the window across from me, blocking out the light briefly. Then they headed past the shower where the toilet is. After a few minutes of not hearing any noise, I poked my head out of the shower to check on my husband, only to find the bathroom empty. Oh, God, that's so creepy. You know? Something about being naked and having this stuff happen is just... That just goes, it's just another level of wrong.
Oh, wrong.
Wrong, not
wrong.
exhilarating.
You said wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't appreciate it when it happened to me when I was in the shower. I didn't. It's just, and not that clothes make a big difference, but there's just a psychological level to having a
Where
layer.
did that breeze just come from?
Jesus God. We are so going to get demonetized. The only part in the haunting that I would consider strange are the times where we will actually see someone in our house who shouldn't belong. One of our ghosts is a woman with a lavender dress who spends her time in the bedroom down the hall from ours. Sometimes we'll see her standing in the doorway of her room watching us. That's also creepy.
Wow.
Needless to say, no one wants to spend time in that room.
Well, at least it's not the bathroom.
Yeah, well, yeah. Get the guy out of the bathroom first and then worry about the voyeur in the hall. The other ghost is a man in a black suit.
That's the voyeur.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be. I usually initially assume that he's my husband, as I always see him leaving a room as I'm walking into it. It's only when my husband ends up being in another room that I start to wonder who exactly I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And it was written by I See Dead People.
Oh, gosh.
Which makes sense. Apparently, oh, that's just a notification. I don't know why that's happening either.
You do not have approval for this website.
Yeah, this is not a valid operation, is the usual thing we hear. Number 18 on this list. In my dad's old house, we're all told by the neighbors that the place was haunted. The neighbors.
Neighbors?
I didn't say neighbors, did I?
That's what I heard.
Well, the neighbors. The neighbors. We really had an issue, so we never really had an issue. Now I'm all flustered. got me thinking about pronunciation too much here. One night my dad had a guy sleeping over. He's gay. And the guy woke up freaking out saying a blonde-haired man was sitting in the closet.
Wow.
My dad saw nothing, but the guy still got dressed and left.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, hey. About 6 months later, we were having a Christmas party with my dad's family, and my nanny said she was feeling ill and wanted to lie down. My dad offered her his bed and said if she decided to sleep over, he would sleep on the couch. She went to bed, and the rest of us kept talking and eating, having a gay old time. It actually says that. Having a gay old time. Okay. About an hour later, we hear her scream and start running for the room as she's running away from it. And we asked what happened. And she said there was a man in the closet. The rest of the guests just shrug it off and kind of exchange glances like, yeah, right. But my dad and I are like, what did he look like? Big, she said, and blonde hair. He moved out 6 weeks later, but never slept in the room again. That was by TSim12345. Huh. Yeah, I guess a big blonde guy in your closet is not something most people like.
Sitting on a 50-gallon barrel.
It's not a feature most people look for in a rental.
No, not really.
Number 19, I had a good friend in high school and would somehow always know when he was about to call me. I'd reach for my phone, and a few seconds later, it'd start ringing. This happened pretty consistently, but only with him. Strange.
Whatever.
That was by Future Robot Wordplay. That is pretty strange. Number 20, not me, but my grandmother. Her and her sister grew up in London in the 1930s. Oh, wow. They somehow got a hold of a Ouija board, so they played with it. Never said anything too spectacular had happened. Then my grandmother's sister started having weird dreams, and she would draw symbols she saw in these dreams and hang the pictures around her room. One day, they had Egyptian men working in the house, and upon entering the girl's room, they saw the symbols and quickly turned to leave. My great-grandmother asked what was wrong and why they were leaving, and the men explained the symbols were evil and meant terrible things would be brought upon them. My great-aunt was made to take them down.
No kidding.
I don't know, super scary. Not super scary, but kind of perplexing to be sure. Yeah, that is. That's from Batty Go-Go. Number 21 on the list. My ex's twin sister was 1,500 miles away, and they had a connection where they would know what the other was going through. Often we'd go to my ex's place, and her sister would have left phone messages on of our date. You drank punch tonight. Somebody got lucky. Kind of creepy, really. That was from Darren Edwards.
Wow.
Okay.
Stay out of my head.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gosh.
Get a life, maybe, of your own. Number 22 out of 26. A couple stories here. At my mom's house, we would often hear strange noises, see things that we couldn't explain after trying to find logical reasons, and we never really bothered about them, even though most seemed to occur around me or in my room. However, one experience shook me and my mom up. One night at about 11 p.m., I was sat at the dining table in the living room on my laptop whilst my mom watched TV in the other side of the room. As I'm sat there, I hear someone scream, beep, well, the B word, directly next to my ear. I jump up and look at Mom and ask, what the hell? She heard nothing at all. So, a few minutes later, my heart's still pounding and I decide I need a drink.
Oh, me too.
I get up and go to the kitchen and walk past my mom. At the time, I was in my PJs, which were basically tiny shorts and a vest. I'm just about to walk out of the room when my mom shouts my name in shock. I walk back, half thinking she's heard something, and her face is pale, completely drained of blood. I follow her eyeline down to my legs, and both of my legs were scratched.
Wow.
Not just red scratch marks, where I could subconsciously have scratched them, but long, deep bleeding in groups of 4 nails, from my knees to my ankles. We counted no less than 7 groups of scratch marks. The strange thing is, I never felt a thing. After 3 days, however, the scratch marks had faded entirely. No scabbing or scarring to speak of. Wow. Well, that's creepy.
Yeah.
The second story is when I was 17, and my boyfriend, let's call him John, slept over.
Who's this guy? Oh, he's just a John.
Yeesh. What's going on at this house? He slept over one night a week regularly, but he always seemed exhausted in the morning. The magic of love.
It's called refractory stage. Sorry.
One day I was quizzing him about this, and he told me he found it difficult to sleep due to the old lady that sat on a rocking chair next to the door. I'd never seen anything, but the corner he mentioned always made me uncomfortable. I'd sleep with my back to it at all times, and the duvet pulled up over my head. And a few years later, and I'm staying at my mom's with my kids, my little boy, who was 3, honestly had never met this ex-boyfriend or heard the story, was put in that room for a nap. Well, I heard him playing for a while before he suddenly went quiet. I decided to check on him, fully expecting him to be crashed out, only to find him sat on the edge of the bed facing that corner.
Wow.
I ask what he's doing, and he says that the lady is telling him a story. Now, my son, being 3, seems to mix up imagination, memory, etc. fairly often, and refers to things I know he did in nursery or played earlier in the present tense. So thinking that he's playing or possibly remembering something, I play along until he says, yes, she likes telling me stories. She feels lonely, and even John couldn't hear her. Cue heart attack. My son had never heard my ex's name. In reality, his name's a fairly unusual name, and I honestly doubt my son could have heard anywhere. And I had most definitely not told him the conversation of an ex who saw a lady in that very corner.
Wow.
A few years ago, I fell asleep on my couch, and had the strangest dream that a young woman I had never seen before visited me. I knew she was my great-grandmother, but I had never seen a picture of her when she was any younger than 50. But I know that this 20-something-year-old was her. Excuse me. She sat down and had a conversation with me about my eldest child and then told me that I would very soon be having another.
Wow.
I woke up with a start to find that I had been covered with a blanket that I know had been in the tumble dryer. Nothing too strange there, just a very vivid dream, and my husband probably couldn't wake me up, so covered me and went back to sleep. So when I go up, he's not in bed. I check my son's room and he fell asleep in there with him. I shrug it off and go back to bed. The next morning I thank him for covering me up and he looks puzzled. He had gone up before I had fallen asleep, and I had heard him check on our boy, but apparently he never left the room as he woke up and wanted cuddles. Okay, not so strange. I probably sleepwalked to get the blanket. However, I can't shake the dream. I tell my mom about it, and she has to contact a relative who digs out a picture of my great-grandmother as a young woman and sends it to my mom. It's definitely the woman from my dream, right down to the floral printed apron she wore. Getting stranger. Anyway, about 3 days after the dream, I can't shake the "you're pregnant" message. I become obsessed, doing a pregnancy test every day for 2 weeks. All negative until about day 13.
13.
Ooh. At my dating scan, I'm told my conception date was the day before I had the dream.
Wow.
It blew my mind. That's my favorite happy, unexplainable story. Another more unsettling story yet again involves John. Remember I said that he would stay over? Well, after our earlier conversation, we were lying in bed one night. I was asleep. I remember vividly having a nightmare where something was chasing me. In my dream, something grabs my ankles and I awake with a start, and immediately I'm dragged down the bed until my hips are aligned with the end, sort of bent over. Well, I claw my way up the bed in a panic, only to find that John is sat bolt upright, staring at me. He'd been awake the whole time and witnessed it. It wasn't like a muscle spasm, but one long, fast, fluid movement where I'm pulled at such speed, my knees hit the floor with a huge bang and bruise up for weeks.
Wow.
We could never find an explanation for it. I got one. It's a ghost. That was by Rena Brina. Rena Brina.
Wow.
Okay.
Ah.
Hold on.
Okay.
Oof. A little coffee.
Get a little froggy?
A little bit, yeah. I haven't been talking that much, I guess, for a few days, so it all hits me at once. Okay. So I think we'll save the other three for after the next Germer Files.
Aggravated Progressive says my ghost flat out choked me.
Ooh.
Saw the wispy hands.
Yeah, that's creepy. Yikes.
Ghost Magnet says I hate it when the ghosts cover me up. I can handle it when they're pulling the covers off, but covering me up's a little too close. Yeah, they just,
Yeah, I think it's a loving thing.
But you have to have the duvet, the covers. Over the head, they'll leave you alone.
That's right.
We know that's ghost proof.
It's supposed to be ghost protection. So, let's go to the Germer Files again.
Germer? Again?
I'm going to rest my voice a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. One more of the Germer Files.
It was 2007, and at that time I was going through a divorce, and I lived in a small town in eastern Manitoba at the time. It was north of Winnipeg, which is the main city, northeast of Winnipeg. And I would just want to kind of describe the area a little bit. It's on the Canadian Shield. It's forested, boreal forest, granite outcrops, lots of lakes. In fact, this area runs those that are familiar with the Snellgrove Lake encounter, this area is very much that kind of terrain, and there's lots of protected parkland between Snellgrove Lake and the town I lived in, even though it straddles Manitoba and Ontario. They're in fairly reasonable proximity to each other. I don't want to give the impression that I lived in a fly-in community, because I didn't. I lived in a town that was very much accessed by highway, had people. It was, a little town, but had, a few little subdivisions in it, and right along the forest. I mean, it was the thing next to us was the wilderness. There wasn't a lot of urban areas out there. So that's where I lived. And because I was in the midst of going through a divorce, I was getting up very early every morning, and I would go out for a walk for at least an hour just to try to get my game face on for the day. I was depressed, I guess, sad, grieving out the whole, leaving a marriage of more than 20 years and what it's all going to mean. And so for at least 6 months, I had been doing this morning walk, trying to just get my head together to walk through my day, whatever I needed to do. So it's the month of May. I think it was about mid-May. It was sometime after the 14th. I'm not sure the exact date because I didn't note the date. But it was May, Manitoba, spring is in the air, and I'm out walking, and it's probably just after 5 in the morning that I left. I leave the town and walk down towards the lake, and I need to explain, too, that this town had one road that went into it, and that was it. You couldn't access it from any other direction unless you were coming by boat. And the road that led into the town was a secondary highway that left the main highway, which was 13 kilometers away. So there's no villages, no housing, no other structures from the main highway to this little town. It's just wilderness and crown land. And a great deal of that eastern northern Manitoba area is crown land. It is not, can't build on it. It's owned by the government, and it's a beautiful, pristine wilderness, a great deal of it. I also needed to say, too, that my background is as a vet technician, and I worked for the government vet in my early days. And I just wanted to say that because part of my experience was animal observation, and when I left working for the government vet, I kind of kept my hand in industry a little bit by helping rear some injured and orphan wildlife for the DNR on a very limited basis, and it was voluntary. And I don't want to imply that, I worked for the DNR. It wasn't like that at all. It was just a friend of mine that was a DNR supervisor would sometimes get my help with wildlife. So I had some background with animals and some background also with wildlife behavior. So that's who I was the day I went into this encounter. And I'd left the house very early, walked down to the lake, and the first thing that I thought was odd about that day was I was heading on a path that ran along the waterfront, and I found on the path 2 garter snakes that had been tied in a knot. Individually, they'd been tied, not together, but they both had been tied in some sort of a knot. That's not weird because kids do weird things like that. But what was weird about it was it's sometime after 5 in the morning, probably about 20 after 5 at this point, and the sun is just starting to, come up, and there's that soft light, but you could clearly see everything. And I'm looking at these snakes thinking, like, well, if the kids did this last night, why are they still here? Because where I was standing was an area I walked regularly, and I knew there was a fox den a few feet away from me. I knew the otters would come up the bank right at that spot. And there's no way snakes are going to be left sitting on a path when they're such easy food. So I thought it's weird. Why didn't an animal pick this up last night? It just seemed out of place. And one of the snakes was actually still alive. So I knew this had been done really recently. Like, it's not like kids did it yesterday afternoon and they're still here. This snake was still quite alive. One wasn't. But I just kind of took my foot and moved one off the path, and I picked the snake up that was alive and put him in the grass. And I didn't even bother to untie him because I thought, well, he's not going to live too much longer, but some critter will find him. So that was the first little thing that just went through my head, is like, well, this is a bit odd. And I'd probably spend about, I don't know, I'm going to say 5 or 10 minutes just kind of looking at the ground and wondering, where all the critters were that usually are in the area, because these shouldn't be here. But didn't really give it any more thought, continued along my path, just a short little distance. And where I'm standing right now, I want to describe. To my right-hand side, I have a lake that has a horseshoe bay right near where I'm at. And to my left, there's a ravine that has a river that's at the bottom of this ravine. At one time, at the beginning of the last century, I guess they had tried to divert a river to go to a hydroelectric dam. So they had blasted a bunch of granite, and it had caused there to be this little causeway that I'm going to walk across into paths that went into the deeper woods. So I'm on a causeway that's about the size of a single lane on a road. It's just a dirt causeway that's built there. And off to my left, like I said, is this ravine that's about 60 feet to the water, maybe. I don't know. I'm not great with distances, but it's a ways down there. And to my left is the lake. And just as I approached this causeway, growing up or living in an area where you have a lot of wildlife, bears were a common occurrence. And because it's early spring, I'm checking for sows with cubs, because you just don't want to get between one of those. I wasn't afraid of the bears. You just kind of know how to handle yourself in the wilderness. You're cautious, but you're not fearful of them. So I'm just scanning for bears ahead of me, and I didn't walk quietly. I always made a point of, when I'm walking, to whistle or sing, or I'm not a stealthy walker, and had no intention of it, because I did at that time live in bear country. But at any rate, I'm approaching the causeway to cross over, and I'm about halfway there, and I look up, and I'm seeing a bear standing at the top of this horseshoe bay on the lake, and I think, it's closer than 200 feet. I'm thinking closer, more like 100 feet away, maybe a little bit more, somewhere in there. And there's a bear, and he's pooping in the water. He's on all fours. He's pooping in the water, and I'm thinking, oh, man, I swim there. Like, you're having this massive dump in my lake. Gross. And just as that thought kind of formulated in my head, I thought, that is the weirdest looking bear I've ever seen. And just as that thought is kind of formulating, my bear stands up, and it's not a bear at all. And he's kind of side on to me, and he's moving in a way that defies all the laws of nature that I know at that point. He's coming up on the bank in such a fluid motion, it looked like he floated from the water to the bank. And I can't even explain it. I don't have the words to even try to explain what I'm looking at, except that it looked like he floated, because there was no effort in the step that he made, which I'm thinking it's at least 3 feet that he's stepped from the sandy bank of the lake up to this grassy, tufty causeway that he's about to step on. So I was like absolutely dumbfounded, and he's side on to me at this point, and he turns his whole upper body, not his neck, his whole upper body pivots, and he looks at me and makes the most fearful, grimacing face at me twice, like showing me his teeth, grinning in a kind of a creepy way, and made this massive rumbling gruff noise, like, I don't know, it was a growl, a gruff. At that point, he just made this really, I don't know, loud noise that emanated from this guy. I think he was really tall. I'm gonna say 8 feet. That, I mean, everybody says 8 feet roughly, but he was roughly 8 feet. He moved in such a bizarre way. In one of my notes, I had written down that it looked like he was forward moonwalking, like Michael Jackson. And I think that's kind of an odd way to describe it, but, I think the first time we all saw Michael Jackson moonwalk, 30 years ago, it was like, how did he do that? It was that kind of a moment where it's like, how is he moving like that? He moved like he was on skates, and he just kind of floated towards the tree line. And as he approached the tree line, he's still kind of sideways to me, but he's slowly turning his body so that he's not really going to be side on to me. As he gets to the trees, he's now facing, looking in my direction, standing in front of the trees. And this is going to sound ridiculous when I say it, but he didn't move into the trees. It's like the whole forest moved around him. But he didn't conceal himself. He was still just low brush and scrub in front of his legs, but his whole upper body and to his waist was very visible. This all, I'm sure, happened in a really short amount of time, but I don't know. Time stood still in that moment. I really can't say how long I'm looking at him, but it was quite a while, like several minutes. And I'm aware, as he's looking at me, off to his, or off to my right, I guess it would have been his left, there is a kerfuffle in the bush. I can't exactly tell how far back in the bush, but it could have been 10 feet, it could have been 30 feet. I couldn't tell how further away this thing was, but there was a creature that I think was even bigger than the one I was looking at, because it was just massive. It was like a shadowy image. I couldn't quite make him all out, but I knew he was there. And this one was losing its mind. The one that was concealed in the trees was absolutely losing its mind. It was snapping off trees. It was shaking trees, and it gave a roar that just made my knees go to jello. I felt like I was about to fall down. I don't know if it was just fear, or that I got such an adrenaline dump that it just made me go weak. I don't know what that was, but it was truly terrifying, and I was so scared. And all I could think to do was, I have to get out of here. I have to back up very, very slowly and deliberately, and for goodness sakes, lock my knees, because if I go down, I'm never getting up. Like, I really felt all the blood drain out of me, and, I was shaky, real shaky at that point. So I'm slowly backing up, and I am on this little causeway, so I have nowhere to go. I can't go left or right. I have to take one foot and just go backwards and slowly try to get out of there. But on either side of the pathway, prior to entering the causeway, there are these huge piles of granite boulders and rocks that have been stacked from the century when they did the blasting. So they're at the top of them. Some of them have little scrubby pine trees that have managed to grasp into these rocks. Some of them have a little bit of grass. But for the most part, I'm looking at Canadian Shield granite and, a little bit of dirt or whatever, but it's mostly granite rock piles. And I'm just thinking, okay, I got to get to where the rocks are. And I'm just backing up, and I hear what sounds to me like smaller rocks falling on the back of the rock pile that was to my left. And I thought, oh no, there's one there, and somehow he snuck up behind me. So he had to have been across the causeway long before I ever was there to look at those garter snakes. And I had no clue it was there. So that was, once I knew that I had to go past these rock piles, and there was probably one just on the other side of that had caused the rocks to fall, just made me feel absolutely sick. But there was nothing for it. I couldn't go forward, could not go to the left or the right, and I had to just take my chances and keep to try to move backwards. So I got probably parallel with the rock pile, not certain at this point if there was a creature on the rock pile, but kind of feeling suspicious that there might be because I'd heard this tumbling of rocks. And sure enough, I think the creature was crawling up the rock pile on its belly. The only thing I saw was auburn brown hair on an arm that kind of was hugging this rock pile midway up. And the creature was definitely flat against the rocks. I never saw its face or head. I just saw one shoulder, a bit of one shoulder, and a massive arm. But it's close to me. Its hand was, I'd say, 6 to 8 feet above my eye level, or 6 to 8 feet off the ground. So it's like at my eye level. And it was just massive. It was so massive. And it's like about 10 feet from me. So I've had the feeling this arm could have just reached over and grabbed the top of my head without any trouble at all. And I'm just trying not to panic and run. And I'm wondering now, is there another one back behind me where I can't see? Because between these two rock piles, I had to back up a little bit of a rise on the pathway, and I couldn't tell what was on the other side of that rise. And I thought, this is it. This is where it all ends, right here. And I just remember standing, looking at the arm. Every time I'd hear a rock fall, I would just freeze. I wasn't sure where the sound was coming from. I thought it was the rock pile, but oh goodness, what if there's another one a few feet back? I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be good. So I had several minutes to look at this arm that was so close to me. So I got a very clear look at that. So to make a long story short, I'll go into the description of what I saw a little bit in more detail, but I was able to back out. There wasn't another one that I'm aware of on the pathway, and I got, I think, maybe about 600 or 800 feet away from the path that I had entered, and I was basically on my hands and my knees throwing up. And again, I don't know if that's adrenaline. I don't know if the roaring that had happened had infrasound in it. I have no clue. Or is it just sheer terror and fear? I don't know, but I was a mess. I got home and lived another day. But, back to what I saw, I was able to grab some notes that I had made, and they're not at all in any kind of cohesive order, so I'll try to explain what I saw. The one that I was looking at that I mistook as a bear was the same black bear kind of a color, except I noticed it seemed to have a little bit of red tinges here and there on its coat, but it was black. except it had a little red in it. I don't know how to explain that, but that's how it appeared to me. Its overall body was huge. It seemed, if its height was 8 feet, its shoulder width was 4 feet. It seemed twice as tall as it was wide, but that's huge. Like, to be that wide, it was huge wide. The other thing that I had written down here is massive barrel chest. When it was when I was looking at it from the side, it's unlike anything. You could not mistake this as a human being. Like, it had this barrel chest that, like a greyhound almost, a massive rib cage that stuck quite far out there. So that's the thing I had noted about that one. And I also had written down, because I got a fairly good look at its face. Its upper lip is thin, but it's huge. And also the distance between the bottom of its nose and the top of its upper lip is double than what us humans have. It's a very big distance between those two spots. I had noted that down. The other thing I had put down, its mouth is huge, like a garbage pail. And what I think I was trying to refer to is, a trash can where you step on the pedal and this massive lid opens up. That's how the mouth appeared to me. And the other thing I wrote down was that the bottom jaw, it's like a Roman helmet. And I don't know exactly what I mean, except when you see some of those old Roman helmets, there's this massive big leather piece or whatever that kind of protects their jawline. But its whole jaw looked like that. It was just this huge, this is big gaping jaw that was incredible. I think that's all that I really had written about that one in particular, except that it definitely was hair covered. The hair on its head and the top of its shoulders, I had noted here, seemed to be about 6 inches long, and it was like it was wearing a cape. And the hair on the arms was also seemed to be long like that. But over the rest of the body, I said 2 to 3 inches overall. But then the one that I saw its hand, because I was so close, the hand, the thing I seemed to really focus on was the knuckles. The knuckles were bulbous. They looked almost swollen. They looked almost deformed, like somebody who has severe arthritis. So that could possibly be what I was looking at. I don't know, because I'm looking at one hand on one specimen. I have no clue if this one is an anomaly or if it's a representative of the species. But I'm looking at a hand that I noted here was so big that it had a big palm, a big hand, longer than any human's. I think it's perhaps more than 12 inches. The hand was massively long and very wide, I said as well. I also had an interesting note that I said the right hand has a break, a proximal phalanx break of the index finger. So why I put that down is that its index finger stuck out at a very weird angle. And it's not normal. Like if it was in a person, somebody had broken the joint between their knuckle and their first, the bend in their first finger. So I thought that was an interesting notation. I had forgotten about that. The other thing that I had said about the hand, I wonder if they get vitiligo. And vitiligo is a pigment disorder where all the pigment color leaves an area. And I should say on the black one that I had seen standing up, it appeared that its skin was dark gray on the face, and where I could see it on its hands, it appeared dark gray. The auburn one that I'm looking at, it also appeared to have dark gray skin that I could see underneath the hair. But I'd written down that it seemed to have vitiligo. I said, there's a white patch on the hand at the base of the index finger. But this also could be scarring from an injury. So I don't know if they get vitiligo, but that's what it looked like to me because it was so close. One of the things about the hair on this arm that was hanging out across these boulders was that, again, the hair seemed to be at least 6 inches that was hanging very unkempt and scraggly looking. But the interesting thing is that on its hand, I don't know, I guess I didn't really think about Bigfoot back in those days, but I would have made the assumption that the hair would have gone all the way down the back of the hand, but it didn't. It stopped almost like it was a cuff, like the hair came down its arm and it trimmed the back of its hand, but I know it didn't. It had hair that hung a little bit, but there was relatively little hair growing on the hand. So I thought that was an interesting thing that I noted. And I had one other note about the big one that I had seen that had stood up. Eye sockets were huge, and it had a very wide bridge on its nose, far more than a human would have, and its nose was fairly flat, but it had downturned nostrils, not upturned nostrils. That was my other note about what I saw, and I think that's all that I had for the notations on the description anyway that I had seen.
That's incredible. Very incredible. And since we're right at the last half hour of the show, we're going to jump right into the last one tonight. And this is a real honor. This is one that we are getting exclusivity to reveal. And this is the interview with Wes and Travis Walton of Fire in the Sky fame, abductee, and has an incredible experience. So we're going to get to that right now. So, without further ado, here we go.
Forestry worker Travis Walton was abducted by a UFO on November 5th, 1975, while he was working near Snowflake, Arizona. Travis was missing for 5 days and 6 hours. After days of searching with scent dogs and helicopters, Travis says he reappeared by the side of a road near Heber, Arizona. All of this started with a strange light in the sky.
Well, it wasn't especially bright. It was just a glow that was out of place in the woods. You know, normally you just wouldn't see any kind of light. One of the first thoughts was maybe some deer hunters, you know. It was deer hunting season. We'd heard shots in the distance that day, and that was the first thought. But the light was coming from higher up than any sort of a, tent or campfire would have been. So it was well above ground level. And it recalled to mind for us, our encountering a tree that had been hit by lightning the night before and was on fire up high. And we got out and put the fire out, of course. But that's where the name of the movie Fire in the Sky came from, is that, we were wondering if this was a similar fire that had started. But that was just an initial impression. We were just nothing that we could come up with that it might be. Could it be the sun going down? But that was quite a bit earlier. Could it be the moon? No, we can see that in a different direction. Any sort of a thing. It wasn't all alarming or anything at first. It was just kind of like idle curiosity at first. But the longer it went, the more it wasn't fitting in with things, and then the more focused the attention of the whole crew became on what the heck could that glow be. Paramount movie made it look like molten lava. It was described by, some of the crew as looking like molten metal, but it was more the color of like white hot, like molten steel being, poured liquid, when it's so so hot that there's barely any yellow to it anymore. It's giving off almost a white light, but it never looked like it was depicted in the movie, which looked more like a pool of red molten lava, and that wasn't accurate. I said, Mike, hurry up and get up there where we can see what it is, because I could see that the light was coming through a break in the trees, and it was sort of washing across the road ahead. So I knew that, at that point we'd have a clear view of the source of the light. So closer we got to that, the more, intense the crew's attention became. And when we got to that point, I call it burst into the clearing in a way that, we could suddenly see it, and there was just no mistaking what we were looking at. One of the guys in the back, I think it was Alan Dallas, yelled out, "It's a flying saucer," or "It's a spaceship," something like that. As if anybody needed to say what it was. It was less than 100 feet away, a glowing metallic disc, unmistakable. And the skeptic suggestion that what we actually saw was the planet Jupiter is just laughably absurd. There's just no way. This was not a tiny point of light off in the distance. This was a clearly defined object.
At this point, Travis gets out of the truck. I had to know why. Was it curiosity?
I'd say curiosity had a whole heck of a lot to do with it, and an assumption that this thing was going to take off and be gone in a very short period of time. Very often the crew is driving down the road and will catch sight of some animal and, try to say, "Hey, look over there, it's a bobcat," or whatever. And by the time their attention is, directed in that direction, it's already gone. So it was my thinking when I got out of that truck heading towards it that this thing would be gone before I had gone very far. A couple of the other guys have insisted that to them it looked like I was in some kind of a trance, But, turning around looking back at the crew, I'd say everybody looked entranced, you know what I mean? We were, in complete awe of what we were seeing. It was astonishing, and the look on our face, everybody's face probably would have been one of total astonishment. So
at this point, Travis is looking up at this craft, and the craft shoots out a light and hits him. In the movie Fire in the Sky, you see the actor being thrown across the screen. I was curious if being hit with the light was just as violent in real life as we saw in the movie.
No, actually, I'd say it was more violent, isn't that strange, than the movie portrayed it. I think the problem was they were afraid somebody might be looking down at their popcorn and missed that point in the movie. And so they tried to drag it out. They made it look like the light came on and held the actor there and kind of just, held him for a little bit before it tossed him back. But it was more, from what everybody describes it as, just a blast of energy that just threw me through the air so violently that they immediately concluded that it had killed me. He's dead. They said that they were yelling at each other. He's dead. It killed him. And, there was no mistaking that, John's description of my body landing like a sack of meat, like there wasn't a bone in my body, spoke to the fact that, the violence of it was so powerful, to literally throw you through the air, 15 or 20 feet is, I find no fault with those guys taking off at that point. They did what anybody with any smarts would do, is just get the heck away from the danger. There's no point in getting somebody else killed to save a dead man.
Travis is a better man than I am, very forgiving. All of his friends had taken off. It makes me wonder why they intentionally fired upon Travis.
Well, I'm not so certain anymore that they had hit me with in any sort of a deliberate firing of a weapon, although that's one possibility. I went through a whole range of possibilities of what this energy might be. And some people trying to explain it away, actually come up with some pretty unusual concepts. the Mogollon Rim being a giant fault line there, it was speculated that there had been some kind of an earthquake, and that this was like what they call earthquake lights, where, stories of it generates a kind of like a earth to sky sort of a lightning bolt, generated by the, torsion in the rocks underneath the earth. Supposedly, trying to explain this away, of course, some of this energy came up out of the earth, came through my body, and caused me to hallucinate. And this was a pretty elaborate theory that Dr. Persinger came up with, but it just fails miserably in explaining how could 7 people have the same hallucination. Certainly, this supposed earthquake light couldn't have passed through them too. It just didn't make any sense. But that's one possibility. Another possibility that it actually was actual lightning, since that part of the Mogollon Rim there has the second highest frequency of lightning strikes of any place in the continental United States. If that was lightning caused by this feature, perhaps it had actually struck the craft and then as a secondary discharge passed through me on its way to ground. There's a number of possibilities. The descriptions that were given by the lawmen interviewing these people and putting in their report was, one described it as looking like a foot-wide blue laser beam. Another describing it as looking like a long blue flame. Another described it as being like a lightning bolt. And so, this blast of energy, it was actually also compared to like stepping on a landmine or, something of that nature.
I asked Travis, what was his next memory?
Well, it's not my favorite part of the description, but I woke up on board the craft. Didn't know where I was at first. Eventually, came to remember approaching the craft and then thinking that perhaps I'd somehow been injured and taken to a hospital, because I knew I was on some kind of raised surface. Yeah, I felt this device across my chest. There was a light above me. Ceiling seemed closer than it ought to be, so it seemed like I was on some sort of raised surface, not laying on the floor, but in a very, half there, in and out sort of a barely conscious sort of a feeling. At the same time, feeling a lot of pain, a feeling of suffocation, a feeling of impending danger or something that generated a tremendous amount of fear in me. But, what could be wrong? What are the doctors up to? Thinking I'm in a hospital, thinking that these are doctors I'm hearing moving around me. But when my vision finally cleared and I could see these beings, I knew where I was, and it was an incredible burst of fear and adrenaline that went through my body that gave me enough strength to get off of that table. This device they had on top of me, it fell off. And I just grabbed for something to defend myself with, flailing at them, and, making threatening, striking sorts of movements. They, at that point, had begun to approach me, but, hadn't really gotten close enough to where I could, within striking distance. I was just flailing away in a way to sort of try to scare them away from coming any closer, screaming the whole time, just, basically out of my mind with fear, just totally hysterical, to the maximum fear, more fear than I've ever felt any time in my entire life. But it was the feeling of being mortally wounded, that something was terribly wrong inside, and then feeling trapped. But above all, the feeling of suffocation. Nothing adds to panic more than the feeling of suffocation. I've made the comparison to waterboarding, an interrogation technique that everybody involved knows it's not going to be fatal. They've even trained for it, but it still works because it generates a level of fear that's like nothing else. So this over-the-top fear and this dimly lit environment, very cramped quarters, a real claustrophobic sort of feeling. But my driving thought at that moment was escape, of course. They left the room abruptly, hopefully, as a response to my combativeness. I went looking for a way out. I encountered another type of being that I at first took to be a human being. And in later, thoughts, I think that they were probably not actual humans, but some type of being close enough to, I think, probably just chosen because I took them to be human, and that I, became less combative, of course, that if they were trying to in some way give me some sort of medical treatment and help me to recover from the effects of being hit with that energy, then it was important that I cooperate. And once I became combative with these small creatures, and my fear of them was not going to be overcome in any timely manner. So I think, whether these, people have offered various theories. These human-looking beings were actually some sort of an illusion, or some sort of mechanical or other sort of method just used to make me think that something that looked kind of human would help me out of there. But whatever it was, whatever these beings were, I don't think it's too far-fetched for there to be alien creatures quite similar to humans. I also don't think that it's too far-fetched for there to be various things that get lumped into the category of, quote, grays that are actually very similar species that just,
Travis describes these little creatures as gray aliens, and I was curious, if he could have gotten his hands on one, would he have killed it?
I think, they were probably, even in my weakened condition like that, my advantage being so much larger than them was so clear cut, and, probably would have done a lot of serious harm. And on top of that, I think that they probably were trying to gain some sort of telepathic control.
At this point in the interview, I noticed Travis getting very uncomfortable talking about the telepathy and how they were unable to. And looking back now, I wish I would have asked more questions, but he's actually talked about this before in the past. He talked a lot about the feeling of being suffocated, and I was curious if he felt like that was from his injuries or if that was from the craft he was on.
Well, I don't know. It could be either one. It could have been on account of the injuries. But I'm today in discussions with artists about recreating these scenes, it became more obvious to me that it was probably more likely to do with some sort of a quality in the atmosphere inside that craft, because I did notice a fairly clear-cut difference once I exited the craft.
In most abductions, you only hear of people running into the gray aliens, for example. In Travis's encounter, he not only ran into the grays, he also ran into this other entity that looked more human-like. I asked Travis, do you think you actually ran into two separate entities, or do you think they were presenting themselves as human to get him to calm down?
The first alternative you offered there is probably just the most simplest, that there being, I think, quite a wide variety of types of beings visiting this planet, and probably quite a bit of intercommunication amongst them, as distinct from having very limited communication with Earth people. And so the easiest thing would just be find somebody that can gain his trust and get him back under anesthesia and get these medical problems dealt with. Nowadays, they're calling them Nordics, but, I don't think they had that term back then. As well, the term Greys, I don't think they had that term. I'd never heard such a thing. I never even described them as being, quote, gray. It was some grayish white, maybe. They were very pale in their, coloring.
When I think of gray aliens, I think of this. I asked Travis, were the eyes just black? I mean, was there any sort of intelligence there?
Oh, there was definitely an intelligence. It wasn't just black, and I know many people describe them as having just a solid black eye, but these beings definitely had an iris, a pupil, eyelids that blinked, and it's my theory that they're being there in their own environment that they at that point didn't need the kind of black eye covering that probably explains the appearance of other ones that are called grays. That, see, anything with really large eyes is probably something that exists for most of the time in a very low light environment, something that lives deep under the sea, or a cave dwelling animal, or something that's strictly nocturnal is more likely to have a very large eye. So these large eyes on this type of beings, the so-called grays, it suggests to me, and even their pallor, the paleness suggests low levels of light. And so in their own, comfortable environment would not have this sort of sunglasses kind of a filter even necessary. So that could be one explanation.
After fighting with the Greys, Travis runs out of the room. He runs into a more human-looking alien. He thought at the time it was a human. Travis runs up to him and he's like, "Let's get out of here." And he's chatting with this guy. But this entity never actually speaks with Travis, never actually talks to him. And I was curious, when he walked up, did his expression ever change?
Yeah, his expression did change. It seemed to be, sort of a sympathetic but sort of a tolerant attitude, because, here I'm acting hysterical. I'm basically a raving maniac. So he's not communicating, but, I thought mostly likely because of this helmet that he was wearing, thinking, well, maybe he can't talk with that on or hear clearly with it on. So, I wasn't too alarmed by the lack of response to my questioning. Even though I was out of my mind and hysterical and yelling, I kind of on one level understood that I wasn't exactly something to have a calm conversation with. So I went with him. It was clear to me that, he was going to lead me out of there, and that was exactly what I wanted, get me out of here.
The amazing part is where Travis ran into this human-looking entity, it was actually on another craft. The original craft he was in was parked in a bigger craft. I asked Travis, this human-looking entity, could he if you put a suit coat on him, took the helmet off, and let him walk down the street, could he pass for a human?
Yeah, he certainly could. Yeah, he would pass for human. Once I saw more of his kind together, it was kind of odd to me that they had a sort of a resemblance. Even though this guy might have, stood out a little bit from people, when you see a bunch of them together and they're all similar and like family sort of resemblance, that's kind of odd. You don't normally see that. When we encounter a group of adults, they can vary pretty dramatically in their appearance.
So this human-looking entity walks Travis back. I wondered, did he ever see the Greys again?
No, I didn't ever see the Greys again. I think not to say that I know for sure they weren't continuing to be involved. But whether these human-looking individuals completely took over what I think was probably some sort of a medical process, something involved in trying to correct the damage done from that blast of energy, or whether, they turned me back to the custody of these small creatures. Maybe their technology was better at dealing with the problem. But I do believe that, that feeling of being wounded, was the main factor there, that the difference between how I felt once I was rendered unconscious there to when I came to again. The beings that he left me with did not wear helmets like him. So at that point, there was no more reason to think that they would have any justifiable reason not to respond to my questions. So I was, extremely anxious, even though I was in the custody of what I believed to be rescuing humans. Still, it's reasonable to expect you're going to tell me what are you doing with me? What's becoming of me? Am I going to be okay? What's going on? And to get nothing in response sort of started renewing my panic and fear about what was in store for me. Well, they tried to get me to lay on this table, and, I'd just come off of a table where I felt extremely trapped, and I was not going to cooperate until they would tell me something, So I started saying, I'm not doing this. You got to tell me what are you doing? What are you doing with me? And they wouldn't answer, and they were trying to force me onto the table then. And so then I started really resisting, and I was in a pretty weakened state, and I think they were probably pretty strong beings. They felt very strong and didn't really have that much trouble getting me down on that table, putting this mask over my face, which caused me to lose unconsciousness. So, it's nothing special, just a mask, like an oxygen mask. No hoses that I could see connected to it, but something in it caused me to lose consciousness.
Travis told me his next memory was waking up on the road.
Yeah, I woke up on the road. But, how soon after? I had no way of knowing how much time had passed. Was this mere minutes after? Probably not, because, that pain and feeling of being wounded was gone. But, was it a matter of hours, days? At that point, I had no clue how long I'd been gone. I made my way to phone booth, and my family came to get me. They could tell that I was under the impression this was still the same night as when the incident began. But that's when I learned that 5 days had gone by.
5 days and 6 hours. The phone booth Travis used to call his family still stands today.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. That has been a exclusive broadcast of the Travis Walton interview with Wes Germer on Sasquatch Chronicles. You can catch that live on Sasquatch Chronicles channel, the YouTube channel, in the coming days. But absolutely epic, and special thanks again goes to Wes Germer for making that possible for us to have that on the Paranormal Portal. It's a real honor. As you can see, they're amazing. They're amazing interviews, amazing glimpses into people's experiences, and they're incredibly well done in the video format as well. It's really fun to watch them as well as listen to them. So my hat's off to you. Thanks, Wes, and thank you all for being with us tonight.
That would be you guys.
All of you out there looking at me right now or listening to the sound of my voice. But we are absolutely thrilled that so many of you continue to come back, and new faces are showing up all the time. It is an absolute honor. If you haven't checked out the podcast, please do. You can find the Paranormal Portal podcast on any of the major players like iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, whatever. I mean, there's tons of them. So we're out there, and we'd really appreciate your support there as well. So, but Don, I know the evening's come to a close. Anything in closing?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Hi, good morning. No, we're doing great. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Don't forget, we do have the Teespring, though. Yes. So check out the Teespring for your portal gear. It's down below.
In the description.
Yep. There you go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude this journey into the paranormal portal on this Wednesday, Hump Day Eve. So, have a great rest of your week. I'll be back tomorrow night on the Night Terrors. I hope you will all join me then. That'll be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube. Thank you, Wen, and thank you all. You guys have a great night. Thanks.
Thanks to MCAT and who was the other one? MCAT and
it was else. The Fourth Color.
The Fourth Color, yes.
Yes, thank you guys so much for the donations. They really go a long way in helping to support the show. Keep the lights burning and keeping our creative juices flowing. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight, guys. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Take care, and by all means, get involved in the Discord. Our Discord server's up if you want to continue to chat here and there and send messages back and forth between the listeners that are joined. By all means, do that. There's some great articles posted, some great conversations. And don't forget the Paranormal Portal fans page as well as the Paranormal Portal radio page on Facebook. So I think that's the laundry list, ladies and gentlemen. Wish you a wonderful evening. Have a great day tomorrow. And I'll be waiting for you right here at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another episode of the Paranormal Portal. All right, cue the credits.
Good night.